and today is my first day. I'm gonna demonstrate how I make my homemade lasagna. We're gonna be going through a few details in it of what I like to use, from my lasagna shells to my very good melted cheese. It's not even like the name brand, but it melts very good. My Sweet Baby Ray's, my ketchup, my Prairie Goose, my seasonings, and a few seasonings that I mixed together. My spinach, my bell peppers and onions, and try some hot rotel. Give it a nice little kick. So if you follow me through this, you'll see how good I cook it. Come on in my kitchen. Right here I have my ground beef. This is like a 5-pound bag of ground beef. And what I did was I added a little water to it and let it boil out some of the grease out of it. Then I poured all the grease out of it. And then I let it cook at a low temperature. Then I have my seasoning right here. This seasoning has some cayenne, some Cajun seasoning, some garlic pepper, some soul seasoning. I mix it together, that way I don't put too much in there. I don't like too bland of a taste, and I don't want it over seasoned. So then I just sprinkle just a little bit in there. I don't want to overdo it. And because I added the water to the meat, it kind of makes it like bulky. So what you want to do is take your spatula and chop it up real good. And my eye is on too because this is an electric stove. So this is what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna stir this up, and then after I get through chopping it up so much, I'm gonna go ahead and add my onions and my bell peppers to my meat. A lot of times I like to start off cooking with it already in there, but because the meat was frozen already, this is how I started it off. I'm gonna put my lid back on. I'm gonna come over here, chop it now. I'm getting ready to start with my onions. This is a yellow onion. It's very sweet. Doesn't take a lot of it, but it takes a nice little amount. Gives it a nice kick, nice flavor. You can smell it all through your house. That, and then I have my bell pepper. I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna slice with a bigger knife, actually. Okay, this is a nice blade. Okay. I don't want to struggle cutting it because I don't want to cut my hand. A lot of people aren't real skilled with a knife, and it took me quite some time to learn to be. These onions don't have to be cut a certain way. They're just chopped up. Medium-sized green bell pepper. And I'm going to chop it down into some nice sizes too. Okay, a lot of times people like to get rid of the little peppers inside of it, the little seeds. But sometimes I use it because it gives a nice flavor with your food. And no, I'm not going to cut my hands. Okay, I'm back over my stove, stirring up my meat. It looks pretty good, smells very good. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a half an onion and about 1/4 of a bell pepper. And let that cook good up in there. Stir it up real good. So they're not too chunky, and when you eat them, they're cooked all the way down so can digest them easier instead of big hunks. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back over here, put my lid back on. I'm gonna go ahead and get those bell peppers and onions off this board. Okay. I'm not gonna use this board anymore right now. I'm gonna put that there. That's the half. My sauces next. My ground beef has already got done. This is my rotel. It's hot. Some people don't like it hot. A lot of times I don't use hot. I'll use regular rotel. But for this, spice it up a little bit. And our sauce. Get all that. Sometimes you flip it upside down. If you got any more, if it goes to the bottom, you can use the rest. Okay. The thing about this lasagna is you want it to have a nice thick texture, because when it bakes you don't want it to just all slide across the shell. So I get my favorite sauces and I make sure I get a couple cans of tomato paste. And I have my ketchup. I know it may sound crazy, but I promise it's really good. It's still a tomato sauce. And my favorite barbecue sauce. And then I take the remainder of the bell peppers and onions. Add that little bit up in there. And then I'm gonna stir this up. My eye is on 5 because I want a nice medium heat, but I might turn it down to 4 once it starts heating up really well. I'm gonna stir that up in there. Okay, I got me a nice silver pot. It have about a fourth of water inside of it. I already let it boil. I added some salt to it. The salt just helps the noodles break down easier and get softer. It takes all the stiffness out of it. So I only use 1 box, because if you use more than 1 box, you have a load of shells, pasta shells. Some people put a little cap full of oil in it, and it's so the noodles don't stick. But if you already get your water hot enough at a good temperature, you won't have to worry about that. But not knocking anyone that does. Okay, so now I've let that hit the water. I'm gonna put my lid a little bit on, not completely, so it can help the noodles boil a little bit faster. Okay, now my noodles have finished cooking, so I'm gonna turn them off. They're very hot. I'm gonna go over to the sink, and I have a strainer in the sink. So I'm gonna turn on my cool water at the same time. Whoa. One left stuck in there. I'm not gonna use it. I'm gonna leave it alone. And it's gonna bake. And you didn't want it to be overcooked. So you cooked it just enough. Few minutes or so now, and my sauce is done. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and pour my sauce inside of my ground beef. I made sure I didn't add too much sauce to it, but I added just enough paste so when I stir it, it's not watery, so it doesn't slide off my noodle shells, my pasta shells. Stir that my ground beef up with it. You see how thick that is? You can see all the bell peppers and onions and spices. It smells really good. Okay, I've prepared all my lasagna proportions. I have my meat and my sauce. I have my noodles. I have my cheese. I have my mushrooms and my spinach and my ricotta cheese. So now I'm getting ready to place it in a pan, and I'm going to layer it up. Once I layer it up, I'll bake it in the oven for about 45 minutes. I cooked the noodles just long enough for gonna be cooked just enough so when I bake it in the oven, it doesn't overcook and it's not undercooked. So the first thing I do is I like to go ahead and lay a little cheese down first at the bottom. Some people put sauce first, but there's really not a certain way you need to do it unless you prefer it. This is my mozzarella cheese. So I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna spread it out. I'm gonna spread it up first. Sometimes it kind of clump together. It's just cheese. It's not gonna hurt anything. Just spread it out. And I'm gonna start placing those down. I like them because it's like if you did a substitute for meat. The mushrooms have a nice meaty taste, you know, even though they're not meat. They're flavorful enough and heavy enough to feel like it's taking a place. Okay. Just a couple more. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start putting my sauce on. I've stirred my sauce up. Now I'm going to start pouring some on it. Okay. This is a cup. The portion size. You want to make sure you get a good nice scoop of it on there so it evens out. You don't want to just eat noodles and you're not getting enough meat. Okay, and then I want to take my spinach and I'm just going to lay them on there. I'm not going to break them up or anything, just lay them on there. Doesn't have to be any kind of way. Some pieces a little bit better. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put my shells, my next roll of shells on. And then I'm going to open up my ricotta cheese. And since I took time and rinsed the shells off in cool water, it made it easier for them not to break and to be able to lay them down good. That's 3. Okay. And now I'm going to open up my ricotta cheese. Because the ricotta cheese is thick, I try to stir it up a little bit, kind of pasty like. So I try to spread it on there like it's icing. With this ricotta cheese, I only do it once. We're going to continue with the same layering of the lasagna, putting the shells together, the mushrooms, sauce, cheese, the spinach. And I'm putting it in the oven. It's on 350. I've already preheated the oven. We're going to let that bake for about 30-40 minutes and then we'll come back and we'll see how it turns. This is my finished product, my baked lasagna, 30-minute meal. And I would like you to come back and join us again when I do my next video for my next creation.